David, you have a new bandsaw, and how many times have you lubricated the bearings?
0.
Okay. Now, most people have not lubricated their bearings because they are under the misconception that the guide bearings, the thrust bearings don't need to be lubricated. The bearings on the bandsaw, the wheels don't need to be lubricated. The news is they do, and not with WD-40. You might as well just put glue in them if you use that because it stays wet and it draws in the dust. This is what you want. It's called bearing lubricant, okay? Yeah. So you shake it up to get those dry solids once the vapors are off of it in a 3-second blast. And you let that dry for 5 minutes. Make sure it's clean before you spray it. Use a good toothbrush. You don't want to be wicking in sawdust into those bearings.
Sure.
And you're off to the races. And that will give you lifetime bearings and a much, much smoother cut, which is what we need for doing this. It's called a compound cut. And you'll see the finished chair in just a second, but we cut out this shape first, and once we do that, we tape the pieces back together, rotate it 90 degrees, and we cut out the other shape. And the reason I'm telling you all of this, to my knowledge, you have never cut one of these compound legs out.
I have not.
Okay, and I know that you're getting ready to make a dining room set for your beautiful wife, so this is the first step in that process. Right. So that's how you do the layout. You just get a good template. That's on our website as well. And you use the same template left and right. And so what I want you to do is stay on the outside edge of the line, and I need to lower that guide block assembly down so it's within 1/4 of an inch. That's to guard it, but that's also to make the blade more rigid. Okay, and that way you'll get drift-free cuts. Right. So the first cut is a stop cut. You come up, you stop, turn it off, back out of the cut, and then rotate it around and make those curved cuts, which that 1/4 inch 6-tooth blade are perfect for. So I'll let you get to it. Everything's all set. Make sure that column's always locked for a better cut, and we're off to the races.
Okay.
Okay, now stop. I'll turn it off. I'll let it come to a complete stop. The reason you don't back out of a cut with a bandsaw, you could easily pull that blade forward. If it comes off and hits something metal, you've destroyed the blade. So you plan your cuts. And now, stand on that side, leave the line, because we can always sand down to it. Beautiful. That's the way to do it. Now don't be afraid to tweak that blade a little. There you go. But when you do that, you got to keep cutting. Okay, it's like a rudder on a ship. And always look 1/2 of an inch in front of where you're cutting. And tweak that blade around a little harder. That's good. Don't worry. That's fine. We can work with that. That's good. Good job. And I like your feed speed. You're giving that gullet, the valley between the teeth, a chance to carry away the sawdust. And that's key. Looking good. If you want more accuracy, all you have to do is just slow down a little bit. And then remember, whenever you start to turn, you've got to give that blade somewhere to go. So keep that blade moving. That's okay, keep going. Now this is good. You're fine with that. I'm going to show you what's going on. There, you're all the way through, hold it in place. I'll turn off the dust collector. And again, on some Rikon models, they have a brake, but boy, this one is this is a great machine, and it doesn't have a brake. It only takes a few seconds for it to come down. I want you to look at something. You did not want to force a blade, which I admire. You never force things. But you're just learning right now that to do those sweeping curves, you have to be able to bend that and force the set of the tooth to actually nibble its way into that curve a little bit more. So what I'm going to do right now is go back, no harm, no foul, because you stayed on the outside edge of the line, is I'm going to reestablish the flat of the blade first, and then I can walk the teeth right into it, finish that cut. And I'm going to talk through this, so I'm not going to turn on the dust collector so you can hear what's going on again. Right here, you bring the flat of the blade up against the stock, and then you just start to nibble those teeth into that curve. And now you've reestablished the continuous curve without any problem whatsoever. And never, ever be tempted to reach in on a small piece like that when it's right next to the blade, and always reach around back. That way you never get in harm's way. Now the other part of this, as that comes to a stop, is you put the pieces back together and you rotate it 90 degrees and do the second cut. And to that end, blue painter's tape is a perfect way to do these compound tape ups. But you do have to put the tape over part of your pattern. You can reconnect the line, or you can cut in a straight line. And the more you use a bandsaw, straight cuts are a breeze as long as you follow the tune-up tips that we gave you in an earlier video that's just 4 minutes long. So it's worth its weight in gold, because all you have to do is get a good bandsaw. And I will say the Rikon bandsaws are heavy duty and made to last. The fit and finish on these is phenomenal. And I use bandsaws pretty much more than any other tool in my shop for the type of work that I'm doing. So the nice thing about having multiple bandsaws is you can put the 3 main blades that you need. I use a 1/4 inch wide, 6 tooth per inch for work like this, and for cutting dovetails, and we'll see some more on that later. I use a 1/2 inch 4 tooth for a lot of resawing, and for mega resawing and turning squares, I use a 3/4 4 tooth. And horsepower's key. This is a 1.5 horses. So this is all laid out. Now I'm going to let you be.
All right.
Have some fun. Oh, and we have to adjust this up appropriately. And if you're getting drift and you know it's a new blade properly set with the guide blocks or guide bearings, the reason there's drift is the set's been damaged in some way. But another thing that can happen, if you don't have this column locked, you can get drift from that too, because the head will float around.
Yeah, it's moving.
So that's in good shape there. So off you go.
All right.
Good job. Yeah, you got it going on. That's looking great. Okay, now as you swing that around, once you cut through that tape, it's going to have to help hold that piece of wood on there. So you're going to have to shift this in up here and down to the table. Perfect. And finish that cut. I'll get that. Excellent. Beautiful. Good job. Okay, now break that rascal apart like so.
Right.
And if it's square cut, it's freestanding. Now we can sculpt out the back using the same technique, put the strap back on there, but that's how you do a beautiful compound cut.
All right.
Now the next phase to this will be to bring in the chisels to carve it, because this is a dragon's talon that's holding the pearl of wisdom, Philadelphia high form, and this is a commission piece I'm working on. The acanthus leaf has to come on the knee. On this chair, I have about 60 hours in it so far, and I'll have another 120 in the carving, and all of it's dry fit right now, and it's just so much fun to do. Mahogany, you can't beat it.
Nice.
You got a future in this business.
Okay. Great.
Period
Thanks, Scott.
Furniture Makers of America, you're going to see a lot more of David. And Popular Woodworking Magazine, those highlights too. So those are some tips we hope you've really enjoyed today. Thanks for tuning in.